Hey y'all, so I'm giving you a Q&A tonight, given that the Democratic debate is tomorrow. I didn't realize that when I did my update yesterday. So many polls came out today, so go ahead and get mad in advance or turn this video off. And I just wanted to see what's on your guys' mind. I haven't done a Q&A in about a week or so I wanted to see what you guys wanted to talk about. I want to talk a little bit about my thoughts about the debate that's going to happen tomorrow. What do I think we're going to see versus what I think people should probably do? Not giving out free campaign advice though, jail. And answer you guys' questions. No wine today, y'all. I'm being responsible. I have some tea. I don't know if y'all saw my tweet about patient zero. Motherfucker in the hallway talking about, oh, coronavirus is just like a regular cold virus, and if my throat feels scratchy, I might stay at home. Motherfucker, go to the hospital. But I'm not taking any chance. I got my throat coat. About to take me some zinc. I ain't got time to be sick. But anyways, let's talk about the debate first. Okay, so tomorrow is the Democratic debate. Michael Bloomberg is in. Now, I said in my tweet that I haven't been impressed with his off-the-cuff remarks, but I do not care enough to go back and watch his debates in New York, presuming that he had some, or assuming he had some. I haven't, but like I said, he hasn't really done a lot of press conferences, and the stuff that I did see on his problematic shit, he didn't do a good job of responding to off the cuff. But I know everybody's like, all daggers are going to be out for Michael Bloomberg. Not a terrible strategy, but when I get to these polls, you're going to really understand the thing that I've been saying for so long is that Bernie Sanders is should be the number one target. He is ideologically out of step with a majority of the people that are in this race at this point, aside from Elizabeth Warren. So he needs to be taken down a notch. I mean, he's polling at an aggregate level of 25%. Nobody ever attacks fucking Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders does not have a clean record. Joe Biden has alluded to his baggage before as he tried to brush his shoulders off. That didn't really work. So I would assume that Michael Bloomberg is going to go after Bernie, but is anybody else going to go after Bernie? That's the question that I want to know. The people that continue to give Bernie Sanders a pass are going to be kicking themselves if Bernie Sanders wins the nomination, which at this point, out of the candidates, he has the most likely chance of doing that. The other most likely chance is actually having a contested convention, which I've discussed a couple of times. So if I were people, my daggers would be out for Bernie Sanders. The more that people attack Michael Bloomberg, it really kind of elevates his status a little bit. I'm not saying give him a pass because it's probably going to come down to Michael Bloomberg versus Bernie Sanders at this point. But if everybody seems so shook, and now I consider myself a very politically savvy person. I'm very much on the substance of things. But one thing I noticed in the last debate, people seemed a little unhinged. Yeah, they was all upset, all agitated the whole fucking time. And stylistically, that doesn't just play very well. So I think that if people seem really riled up and they're going at Michael Bloomberg, I think it's going to look desperate. And I think it's going to elevate him. That's my opinion. Y'all might not agree. I think there's a way to contrast and probably attack him without necessarily looking like you're only attacking him because he's rising in the polls. But this is do or die for a lot of people in this race at this point. Now, Amy got quite a surge off of New Hampshire, but the demographics of New Hampshire greatly favored Amy. And her surge still was third place. Let's be clear. It wasn't like she surged to first place and won. But she won. She did fundraise the money that Elizabeth Warren would like to have right now. So that it was a net win for her. I don't know if we're going to see a surge for anybody else at this point because a lot of people are pretty much baked in. If anybody has the potential to surge, to be honest, it's probably Michael Bloomberg. Not an endorsement. Because people have seen his ads, and so if he gets on stage and he seems relatively presidential, I'm assuming that Michael Bloomberg's strategy is going to be to focus on Trump, not on his opponents. And focus on what he can do to beat Trump. That is what I think his strategy is going to be. It's a good strategy. He probably will have some kind of canned responses, but I don't know if I expect to see him too much in a slugfest on stage when what's worked for him is that people see him as a person who can beat Trump. Joe Biden, he does not land clean shots. And Joe Biden does not have the moral high ground when it comes to Michael Bloomberg jail on his criminal justice record. And neither does Bernie Sanders. But irony has never been lost on Bernie Sanders and his crew. Elizabeth Warren, remember, I don't know if you guys watched me on Roland last week. Roland seemed to believe that Elizabeth Warren needs to be an attack dog this time. That's worked out well for Amy, considering that she was already polling so low. She didn't really have anything to lose. With Elizabeth Warren, I'm not convinced that's a good strategy. You know, she doesn't do attack dog very well. Her attack, I don't even like to really use the word attack, but her attack, for lack of a better word, on Bernie Sanders flopped so bad. It totally backfired on her ass. She was crashed and burned after that. So I don't know. But, you know, maybe if she can channel some righteous indignation about Michael Bloomberg, that might help. But I don't think that the general public is all that turned off by Michael Bloomberg being a fucking mega rich billionaire who's dumping hundreds of millions of dollars into the race. And stop and frisk, okay, that's fine if you want to bring that up again. Don't think it's going to be as big of a deal as people on Twitter would like for it to be. And I'm not saying that's right. I will remind you, motherfuckers, that I was one of the first people to say stop and frisk. While y'all was like, oh, billionaires buying election, I was like, dude, stop and frisk. Now in February, everybody want to talk about stop and frisk. Well, people don't give a shit. I'm sorry. So I don't think that's going to be a very effective attack from, well, I won't say, I can't, let me take that back. It will only be as effective as Michael Bloomberg's ineffectiveness in responding to it. Let me put it that way. Okay. But, no, Elizabeth Warren is probably the only person that's in a remote position to even raise that because everybody else has issues. So I think tomorrow will be interesting. Are people going to come out swinging because they feel like this is my last chance to like take somebody out? Or will they just try to go out with a little bit of dignity, try to seem presidential and hope that positive and, oh, I have the best message and I could beat Trump works. We'll see. But anyways, let me get to some of these polls and then I'm going to get to your questions. So today, a whole lot of polls came out. And I'm just going to focus on the national ones because this isn't a full-blown Democratic primary state of the race, even though there's one other poll. I do want to talk about two polls. I'm going to talk about California and Virginia. But let's talk about the national one. So NBC News, Wall Street Journal came out with a poll today. 426 likely voters. Bernie Sanders, 27%. Joe Biden in second, 15%. Bloomberg and Warren tied in third at 14%. Then you have Pete Buttigieg at 13%, Amy Klobuchar at 7%. Tom Steyer at 2%. Reuters Ipsos, 543 registered voters, 25% for Bernie Sanders. Bloomberg in second place here at 17%. Joe Biden at 13%. He's getting further and further away from Bernie Sanders. Then you have Pete Buttigieg right behind Biden at 11%. Then you have Warren in, fifth place at 9%. Klobuchar at 5%. I told y'all, Amy Klobuchar is not getting this national surge. Survey USA came out today as well. 1,022 likely voters. I know you say, oh, people are polling 200 voters. It doesn't matter. This is 1,022 likely voters. It is an A-rated pollster. The polling was conducted between February 13th to 17th. I'm not telling you that because I want you to believe this poll versus other ones. I don't care if you believe any of these polls. I'm just giving you the data. Bernie Sanders at 29%. Michael Bloomberg at 18%. Second place, tied with Biden at 18%. Pete Buttigieg behind, and so this is fourth place now at 12%. Elizabeth Warren at 10%. And Amy Klobuchar at 4%, Tom Steyer at 2%. Okay, A+ rated, Marist College, 527 registered voters. It's you know what? The fucked up part about it is the closer that we get to A's, the better news it seems to be for goddamn Michael Bloomberg and Bernie Sanders. Anyways. Bernie Sanders, 31%, first place. Michael Bloomberg, 19%, second place. Joe Biden, 15%. third place. Elizabeth Warren, 12%. Fourth place. Amy Klobuchar, fifth place, 9%. Pete Buttigieg, 8%. Tom Steyer, 2%. Tom Steyer needs to drop the entire fuck out. But he has money. And like I said before, when you have money, you can pretty much do whatever the fuck you want to do. So I'm assuming, I don't know, maybe Tom Steyer's trying to wait to till California to drop out of Super Tuesday. I would actually like to see Tom Steyer's punk ass go all the way to fuck to California and get blown the fuck out the water. That way he can sit the fuck down somewhere, because people have been trying to say, oh, he might try to primary Kamala. Bitch, with what support? Because your ass definitely about to get wiped out of goddamn California. Okay, I did want to talk about this California polling that came out today. We have not had California polls in a long time. I don't know what the fuck California has been doing. They just like, we check the hell out. But there was a California poll that came out today from Survey USA. Because like I said, because it's been such a long time since we've had any polling data out of California, I did want to share this one. And just for some context, the last, at least on the RCP, Real Clear Politics, the last poll had, and this was conducted 125 through 127, 1,967 likely voters. Bernie Sanders was at 30%, Biden was at 15%, Warren was at 16%, Pete Buttigieg was at 8%, Bloomberg was at 4%, Yang 5%, he's now dropped out, Amy Klobuchar 3%, Tom Steyer 2%. Okay. Now we have a new Survey USA poll that came out today, and the results look much different for some of the people. Okay. Now we have Bernie Sanders at 25%. Mike Bloomberg is in second place at 21%, ahead of Joe Biden, who's at 15%, third place. Pete Buttigieg is in 12th place. Elizabeth Warren has dropped down to 9%. Amy Klobuchar is at 6%. And Tom Steyer, it's just a comma here. So I don't know, does that mean 0? So what that basically means is, California is a huge, huge, huge pot. If Michael Bloomberg is running about even with Bernie Sanders in California, then we are fucking headed towards a contested convention, period. That's just what we're looking at, child, because these candidates need to rack up big leads in some of these big pots in order to get that 1,990. If you have all these people that are still competitive through Super Tuesday, this is going to a contested convention. Elizabeth Warren doesn't look like she's going to get a bailout in terms of Super Tuesday. Amy Klobuchar, the same thing. So things aren't looking good for Liz. And then there was one other one I wanted to talk about. Let me just give you some of these highlights. I'm looking at 271, only has the top 3. In New Jersey, Sanders is in first place, 24%, Bloomberg 23%, Biden is 16%. North Carolina came out today. Sanders and Bloomberg tied at 22%, Joe Biden at 20%. Maine, this is where Elizabeth Warren went up on the air. She took money out of South Carolina to go in Maine. Bernie Sanders here is at 25%, Buttigieg is at 16%, Bloomberg is at 14%. Oklahoma, Bloomberg at 18%, Sanders at 17%, Biden at 11%. That's Oklahoma. That's where Elizabeth Warren is from. They ain't even giving her no goddamn hometown love. And then the last poll I'll talk about for today is this Virginia poll. Michael Bloomberg is in first place on this one. Trying to pull the data so I can see it. At 22%, tied with Bernie Sanders at 22%. Then you have Joe Biden with 18% on that one. That's in Virginia. That's another nice hefty pot. Then you have Pete Buttigieg with 11%, Amy Klobuchar with 9%. Elizabeth Warren here is in 6th place with 5%. So as you can see, there is not good news for Elizabeth Warren in any of these polls. It is not looking good. All right, so I've gone through all the polling data that I care to go through right now. Now let's get to some of these questions. All right, first question. We need a Black Women Views update on the state of Amy's campaign, and that tied to the people who never wrote a damn thing about Amy's prosecutorial record, but dragged Kamala through the mud, and now want to talk about poorly women of how poorly women of color prosecutors are treated. And he also included a tweet about how Amy Klobuchar had to ask about a list of Black churches in South Carolina. So a lot of these candidates just wrote South Carolina the fuck off. Okay. They're like, oh, it's the Black state. We're going to go ahead. It's going to be one of the Black people that wins or Joe Biden. No need to compete there. Amy Klobuchar is clearly one of those people. Now, in her defense, it might not have been because it's the Black state. It could have just been because she didn't expect to be around this long. Not an illogical explanation. I said this in my update yesterday. I don't know what Amy is in this for, other than for exposure, to raise money, because she's still getting money, and so that could come in handy for another election. It could be leverage for another candidate. It could be leverage for a cabinet position. She might feel like she can leverage it to a VP slot. People are really into this whole white woman suburban thing, or Midwest, or rural America, or real America. So people might feel like she's an asset in that regard. And so, it's easier to make the case if you're in the race versus somebody who didn't even run at all. And so I think that Amy is showing she's at least exceeding expectations throughout all of these contests. But she's not getting anywhere near to the point where she's viable to be the nominee. So you would have to ask Amy. Like I said, I think it's exposure. As far as the Black church thing, I think it's absolutely appalling that she's just doing very, very, very basic outreach at this point. And I said this on Rollamar, and don't just try to show up at our churches. How many people gonna be in Black churches on Sunday, y'all? Let's take a bet. Show up at where we work at. Show up at where we do business. Show up at our schools and other things where we socialize. Try to get to know Black people, child. You need a crash course in Black people for the presidential nominee, but don't just be so blatantly fucking obvious just showing up in a Black church on Sunday. So Amy, she is getting 0% of the Black vote for a very good fucking reason, because she doesn't care about Black people. Like Kanye would say, she clearly doesn't care about Black people. Her answer, when she talks about Black people, she's talking about gerrymandering and voting rights. Yeah, that's an issue that disproportionately impacts Black people, but that's not a Black agenda, Amy. So yeah, as far as the double standard, it's very simple. People attacked Kamala because they knew that she was the biggest threat to the nomination. They felt like, okay, if she takes off, it's over. And her prosecutorial record wasn't even her record. Let's just be clear. It was smears. Was just something that was an easy thing that, you could just be very lowbrow with the smears. People would take it around with it because it can fit in a fucking meme. And people felt like they were being so goddamn woke. And people just did not anticipate Amy at least being a drag on Elizabeth Warren's record. Because I did see how the energy shifted when Amy was creeping up in Elizabeth Warren territory in some of these early states. Then all of a sudden, these Warrenistas had new energy for Amy's prosecutorial record. Isn't that interesting how that works out? Well, they should have, if you were going to start in on people, start on everybody at the same time. I'm not saying smear people, but I think everybody should have been vetted equally from the jump. Don't just, okay, we're going to bring this person down, then we're going to work on that person. Because it took them till December to get Kamala out. So you don't let everybody else get a whole goddamn free pass for 12 months. So that was stupid of everybody. But anyway, that's all I have to say about that one. I would like to hear people discuss who they'll draw the line in the sand with their vote, even if that means second term for 45. Is the prospect of a second term enough for them to rethink that line in the sand? I think a lot of people are going to have to give this some thought. I think this is a discussion that we've been having all along. People are like, vote blue no matter how. Blah, blah, blah. I'm not voting for Bernie fucking Sanders. I don't give a damn what y'all say. But other people I don't have as much of an issue voting for. And that's just my motherfucking opinion. Everybody can not vote for whoever the fuck they don't want to vote for. Everybody can vote for whoever the fuck they want to vote for. That's how I feel about it. I think that candidates have to earn your vote. That is my mentality. My mentality is not vote blue no matter who. And the reason why I try to emphasize that is because 100 million people do not vote every general election. So just trying to say, oh, Trump is scary, so make sure you vote. That's not going to be enough. 100 million people are not fucking persuaded by that argument. And if people spend more time trying to court the vote and trying to court voters and get them, snap them out of their apathy and give them something to be for, we might have only 90 million people that don't fucking vote, that are capable of voting or that are eligible to vote. So that's what I say. I'm not going to judge anybody for who they choose to vote for at this point. There are people that I don't like, but if that's who you vote for, that's who the hell you vote for. My candidate is out the goddamn race, so I don't care what the fuck y'all do at this point. Somebody said, tell me if anything surprised you about the polls or about people's reactions to them. I didn't see a lot of reactions to the polls, to be honest with you. So I don't know. Maybe people weren't talking about it because they didn't have news that they wanted to see. But the polls are not surprising to me. All the polls are going in the same trajectory as to what I've expected them to go. If you've been following me, you've been seeing what I've been saying. I think some people might be surprised to see that Bloomberg is still gaining even after several days of people howling about stop and frisk. I said stop and frisk isn't going to mean shit to a lot of people. I didn't take any pleasure in saying that, but that's what it was. So, I'm not surprised, but I bet a lot of other people are surprised. People will find that the shit that people get outraged over on Twitter just doesn't penetrate in real life. Somebody said, well, Amy's bang do the Millie Rock again. Yeah, y'all. I said her last, she got her Millie Rock and bang under control. I don't know. Is she gonna be fired up? She gonna have that finger, that's for sure. I would like to know if Amy's going to know who the president of Mexico is for this debate. Your thoughts on Pete's path forward. Love your vids. Thank you. I don't think Pete has a very likely path to the nomination. I've said that. Where I think Pete has a chance, like this much of a chance, is Biden is collapsing, right? I mean, y'all don't want to hear that, but that's the truth. So Biden will be pressured to drop out, I think, a little bit before Pete Buttigieg will, because Biden was kind of like the front runner, and so he's expected to perform better. So if he doesn't perform well in Nevada, I think he'll still win South Carolina, but let's say the donors desert him, he might have to go on ahead and drop out. I've always said I think he's going to be into Super Tuesday, but again, money is the big issue that he might run into, which might make that not so likely. So my thought for Pete is still somebody that is very much well regarded. You know, I know you're going to say Pete doesn't get the black vote. Okay, that's fine. But outside of that, he's pretty much well regarded. He's young. A lot of people might see him as the future of the party. He's done pretty well in matchups against Donald Trump. And he seems to have a lot of the establishment support, right? He's raising a shit ton of money. And so I think that if like, let's say Bloomberg gets his ass on that stage tomorrow and he just fucking bombs and he says something super fucking racist that just disqualifies him to black voters, then, then you might see a little bit of help for Joe Biden. But I think the only path that I see for Pete is a Joe Biden collapse first, and then Michael Bloomberg collapsing because of his stop and frisk or whatever fuck kind of, audio they come up with next. Then he might have a chance. Because I wouldn't be surprised. You guys are going to think I'm totally insane. You're going to think, oh, there's no fucking way, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I'm stipulating that this is probably far-fetched. But what I'm saying is I wouldn't be surprised if we had an intervention by President Obama. If Bernie Sanders continues on this trajectory at polling 25 to, if he gets over 30% nationally, if we're to believe the reports that Obama said he would step in, you would probably see Obama step in, right, at some point in the next couple of weeks before Super Tuesday, maybe just right after Super Tuesday, yeah. and make an endorsement. I think that he would probably, if there's anybody that would get an Obama endorsement at this point, I think it would be Pete Buttigieg. Because Elizabeth Warren is probably about to be out after Nevada. She doesn't have the money. She's polling terribly. And she's not going to do any better in South Carolina. And she's not viable in any of these early states that I'm seeing. So Pete Buttigieg would be a person who I could see Obama endorsing to stop Bernie Sanders. So that's Pete's path forward. Not predicting that will happen. It probably won't happen, but I'm just saying I wouldn't be surprised if that happened. Okay, why in God's name is Steyer still around? I don't know why. He's spent a shit ton of money. People talk about Bloomberg's money. Steyer spent a lot of money, but his ads have sucked. So that's why he hasn't gone anywhere. He's polling dismal, like everywhere pretty much. South Carolina is where he's polling the highest. Everywhere else, like, he's not going to get any fucking delegates. Let me rephrase it. He's actually polling okay in Nevada, depending on what polls you believe. But he clearly has no path to nomination. So my guess is maybe he's trying to be VP. Or maybe he's just in it for exposure like Amy. Maybe he feels like, well, if I go around the country and I make this case and people see me, the next time I want to run, I'll be more known to more people. So that's another thing. Exposure is a big plus. National name recognition. A lot of people right now are benefiting from national name recognition. And he still could use that. So that's an incentive for him to stick around. Yeah. That's the only thing I can think of. When is Kamala coming back? Kamala is chilling. Kamala is unbothered, child. Somebody said, I thought of a terrifying to me but possible nightmare scenario if you want to give some thoughts on it. And so this says, if something stupid happens and we have a three-way race between Bloomberg, Bernie, and Trump, regardless of actual presidential votes, at least Bloomberg as the Dem, one of the two who would fund down ballot. Let me just click on this time. Okay. Let me rephrase this. Rewrite this. If something this stupid happens and we have a three-way race between Bloomberg, Bernie, and Trump, regardless of the actual presidential votes, at least Bloomberg as the Dem, one of the two, would fund the down ballot. Okay, so what he's saying is, let's say somebody runs as independent. If Bloomberg was the Democratic nominee, he would support the Democratic Party, versus if Bernie was the Democratic nominee, he would not support the party. That's what I think you're saying, Pierce. Also, and he also says, Amy and Pete have no Black support. They need to drop out soon. Okay, I've already addressed those two things. That's an interesting scenario. I think people do kind of have the fear that Bloomberg would run as a third party, or even Bernie would run as a third party if they didn't get the nominee. I don't know. I don't know about that. It's very hard to run without that kind of infrastructure. Bloomberg certainly has the money to scale up to provide that, but I don't think it would be viewed very favorably by the Democratic electorate. I don't think there's really a support for a Bloomberg independent candidacy. He is seen right now as a person who could beat Trump, but Bernie is not really, he hasn't been damaged to the point where people feel like he is, he's disqualified. So I don't see that happening. I shouldn't say I don't see that happening. What I should say is, I don't think whoever is tempted to run as third party would be received well. Does that mean that they couldn't spoil some votes? Yes, they could definitely spoil some stuff in an electoral college. I do believe that Bloomberg would be much more of a help to down ballot Dems, both in terms of his ability to fund them, and also because he's not extreme like Bernie Sanders is. And a lot of people who are moderates have rang the alarm like, oh God, please don't pick Bernie Sanders. But unfortunately, y'all, where was y'all energy at this whole time? Now it's in February. Y'all might be too late. Let me see how we can end it. I think it means how can we end it? I'm overly ready to get on with this as all the good candidates are watching from the bench. Bench, let's just pick and stop whining, hand wringing, purity tests, or threats of betrayal if the other person doesn't win. Well, I can tell you, I'm not gonna stop whining. I'm not gonna stop talking shit and threatening whatever who the fuck I want to vote for. But that's advice other people can take. But I do think that purity tests are stupid. Is there a metric that measures possible Black voter turnout? If so, how would a Bloomberg nom affect it? I don't know if if you're trying to suggest is there some kind of forecasting model. But I haven't seen any evidence to suggest that Michael Bloomberg would be a drag on the nomination. In fact, Michael Bloomberg is gaining with Black voters. I think he makes a very good case to Black voters, at least through his commercials. He does have some receipts, whether y'all want to admit it or not, whether you want to call it, oh, it's calculating because he was donated to this only because he was running for president. That's fine. That's what you want to believe. But he can't point to tangible things that he's done for Black elected officials, for Black causes, and even as mayor. That's just a fact. Now, you don't have to think that that's enough to overcome the racist parts of his agenda, like stop and frisk or whatever. But I'm just saying in terms of making the case to Black voters, he has things that are appealing to Black voters. Also, Trump is far worse than Michael Bloomberg. At least that's what I think. A lot of people would agree with that. And you know what? I have to say, for all the people complaining about Michael Bloomberg, what does it say that in February 2020, after these motherfuckers have all been running for over a year, that Michael Bloomberg can scoop in and contest for the Black vote? I have been saying you guys need to try to court the Black vote. Not taking it for granted, not trying to get your little Black spokespeople, try to make it seem like you have more Black support than you do. You have to court the Black vote. Like it or not, and this is not endorsement, you little whiny bitches who fucking complain anytime somebody says anything nice about somebody or anything that's just factually fucking accurate, that's not negative. Michael Bloomberg has courted Black voters. He has gone to the South more than any other candidates. He's held events in Black areas. He's courted Black elected officials. He's done Black radio in terms of his ads, in terms of his TV, everything. So Michael Bloomberg is going where the Black folks are, unlike other people. So be mad at everybody else who left that space open for Michael Bloomberg, despite his super problematic record, as many of them has been able to fill that void. Black people want somebody to come and talk to them and make their case to them. And Michael Bloomberg has made his case on an economic version of I've heard his commercials. I'm not a fan of his. I'm not. But if you're a person who's listening to Russ Parr in the morning or you're listening to Donnie Simpson in the afternoon, you're hearing a lot of very persuasive reasons why, Michael Bloomberg is a good candidate. So this negative campaigning, this whole stop and frisk thing, and I don't mean that to say that it's not a legitimate point. But you're going to have to make an affirmative case for your candidate, period. It's just no other way around that. And Michael Bloomberg is making an affirmative case for himself. Yes, he's talking about beating Trump, but he has a lot of really good ads that are persuasive for why he would be a good person. What is it? Get it done or be like some, whatever the fuck his little motto is. He has a lot of very persuasive ads, and people would be well suited to actually listen to what these ads are saying rather than just say, oh, people are stupid, they're just going by ads. Listen to what the ads are talking about. We'd like to know when Amy Pete and Steyer will drop it. I already addressed that. If Biden wins in Nevada and SC, what does that do for his chances going forward, particularly with Bloomberg surging? I think it helps. I think it helps a lot. He could really use the win in Nevada. I haven't seen the data to suggest he will get that, but he could really, really use a win in Nevada, at least to give him a boost. It gives him some momentum. Going into South Carolina with donors probably might come back on board a little bit. Plus, it will be a more significant win than New Hampshire and Iowa, which is a split decision. So I think that it would help. Do I think it will be enough? I don't know. Maybe. But I think at this point, it's gonna if it helps, it would turn it into a 3-person race. Because Bloomberg's ascendance hasn't just strictly been at Biden's expense. Biden has collapsed kind of on his own child. So I don't think you can entirely blame Bloomberg, but it puts him back in the running. if he can get 2 victories back to back. That would be very good for Joe Biden. Who has the most to gain from a good performance at the debate? Who has the most to lose? I think Joe Biden probably has the most to gain because he's right there next to Bernie Sanders. Because, you know, here's the thing, and this is a 2-part answer. I think Joe Biden has the most to gain because he's close to Bernie Sanders. He can make up some ground if he has a good performance. Again, there's been really high turnout with the early voting. So some of these, I'm not so bullish on a debate performance making a difference because a lot of people are voting before the debates even happen. So we don't know the demographics of that yet. At least I haven't seen the data. Some people tend to believe that favors Bernie Sanders because it's been younger turnout, first time caucusers. I don't know. So I think that the debate is going to be less impactful because of early voting. But a good performance will certainly be good in terms of reassuring donors who are really skittish right now. And it might be just enough to put him over the top to have a close win over Bernie Sanders. Who has the most to lose? Okay, another part of that, and this is related to who has the most to lose. I think that Elizabeth Warren has the most to lose. She needs money and she needs it bad. So she needs a debate performance that's going to knock it out of the park so that she can get the donors on board. She's not going to get a debate performance, I don't believe, that's going to get her a win in Nevada because she doesn't seem to be close enough to be in that territory. And again, with the early voting already baked in, I don't know. I'm not counting her out because I don't have the data to support writing her the fuck off. But in terms of a good debate performance, putting you over the edge, Biden is closer to the top than Warren is in the polling data that I've seen. But Bernie Sanders looks like he's a little bit far ahead. So yeah, and who has the most votes again? Elizabeth Warren. If she crashes on the debate stage, it's over. Because she is not making payroll if she doesn't raise the $7 million. I haven't seen an update on how much she's raised of that $7 million. But she does not have the money to go for it. And a bad debate performance, well, 100% people will be like, you done. So, and a bad debate performance would also depress her Super Tuesday numbers. Like I said, South Carolina, she's not even a factor there. Any updates on funding if Biden flops in SC? Realistically, would he have a path forward? I don't believe so. And as far as funding, I don't know. I haven't heard anything about it. Are Sanders' chance of the primary in general being underrated in political analysis right now? He's polling the best of the group with Hispanics, leads among younger voters, and has some crossover appeal with white populist voters. I do believe that people have been sleeping on Biden, on Bernie Sanders. I've been saying that for months. I remember when I made a video, I told you so. And I was like, is Joe Biden going to attack Bernie Sanders? Because Bernie Sanders was getting his ass jail. And people are like, oh, you don't punch down. And I was like, punch down? What are you talking about, punch down? So people did not really understand that Bernie Sanders was more of a contender than what he was. I did. Political analysis right here. And I think they just, I don't know. I guess the calculation was like maybe the Bernie bros and broettes are too fucking mean. They don't want to incur their wrath, so they just leave Bernie Sanders alone. Maybe they felt like, well, he had a fucking heart attack. Who's going to vote for his ass? I don't know. But it was a very, very, very bad miscalculation. And yes, Bernie Sanders has the best chance of winning the nomination at this point, if nothing else fucking changes to it. Unless we go to a contested convention. That polling, as far as polling with Hispanics, that's not been 100% across the board. Different states have different results. The same states have different results. Even, today we saw in different Nevada polling. So I don't know entirely about that. Leads among younger voters. That's fine. Crossover appeal. Okay, that's fine. Also, Biden and Bloomberg versus Sanders reminds me of Jeb Bush and Marco Rubio versus Trump. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that at all. So I'll leave it at that. Also, you have to think about the fact that Republican primaries are mostly winner take all. We have a proportional system. And so people are viable for longer. I should say it takes longer to have a result. Also, Bloomberg has money. So he doesn't have to worry about people jumping ship. So I definitely don't agree with that. But everybody's entitled to their opinion. Somebody said the polls don't mean squad count the votes, then we can talk until then. Okay, if that's what you want to believe. You shouldn't even be watching this video because I said from goddamn jumps, turn the fucking video off if you don't want to hear about polls. But I think that is a very head in the sand kind of thing, because even though polls change, I say that polls are instructive. They do tell you stuff. Polls trend a certain way. They give you some early warning signs. They don't catch everything. Like I said, the polls, if you looked at the polls back in December, you wouldn't have seen Bloomberg surging. But I saw it because I just saw the message that he had, the spin that he had, and I was like, yeah, this guy's going to be a contender. But to say that polls mean nothing, I just don't agree with that. Now, if that's what you need to tell yourself to feel better, child, then fucking hats off to you. Racism, I want to hear about how every damn candidate is defending themselves for the racist shit they said or been engaged in, and how it makes sense to them. If there are no persons of colors on that stage, how are people of color responsible for doing the right thing? Never mind, I'm pissed. Girl, nobody's gonna defend anything that they've said that's racist. Except for maybe Michael Bloomberg, but nobody else is gonna be called out for that shit. We saw what happened with the whole segregationist topic, how that was how our history was rewritten, right? When has Bernie Sanders been called out for, I said black 50 times, 51st time, or for saying that Vermont workers were basically treated like fucking slaves, chattel slavery? So, no, people aren't going to be called out for it, which is unfortunate. And they don't give a fuck that no people of color on stage. They're happy because then they will probably be losing right now, even worse. If people of color were given the same resources and the same media coverage that they were given, they would some of them candidates wouldn't even be on that stage. Okay, poll overview maybe. Okay, I gave you guys that. And then it looks like it's only one more. Okay, I got to the end. Oh, I got two more. The 180 turn. All the vote blue no matter who Bernie Sanders supporters. Now that Bloomberg is the top contender, as well as the people pissed about Elizabeth Warren being erased, who were silent when Kamala Harris was erased. So yeah, I do see a lot of the whole I will not vote for Mike Bloomberg against Trump from Bernie people and Elizabeth Warren people. Really, child. I never bought that vote blue no matter who shit. I always said from jump that was some bullshit. It was a straight up fucking suppression tactic to try to get you to not vet these fucking candidates. And it was total bullshit. And so it doesn't surprise me that people who were on that vote blue no matter who energy are switching it up. And the people that are, really all adamant about it, that doesn't surprise me either. That's why I say what the fuck I say. I don't give a damn who doesn't like it. Because chances are the motherfuckers howling about what I'm saying probably going to say the same thing, but about a different candidate. Yeah, people being pissed about Elizabeth Warren being erased who were silent about Kamala Harris when she was erased. I mean, Elizabeth Warren is not being erased. Okay, what Elizabeth Warren is doing is her coverage is catching up to her polling. She flopped in New Hampshire bad, very bad, and she didn't do well in Iowa despite having one of the largest ground games, being there probably one of the most times, and she's just not doing well. She doesn't have the money to go for it. She's not financially viable. I think that the media has been very charitable to Elizabeth Warren. I haven't seen the obituaries and all the shit talking that they had. They had them fucking literally daily. It was one day, it was literally 5 obituaries on Kamala Harris that same day. This was in December. So I think that she's had a very charitable treatment by the media. So I'm not sympathetic to that at all. Sorry. Kamala Harris, she was polling in 4th. At the aggregate level, she was getting 3% of the media mentions. I mean, you would see like Biden 1,000, Sanders 800, Warren 750, and then you would see fucking Kamala Harris 130. How the fuck can you compete with that? And I called it out so many times, and everybody, who gives a fuck, right? So I don't feel bad for Elizabeth Warren. She has made it through all the way through 2 primaries or 2 contests. And now people are moving on because she doesn't seem to be viable. So that's what it is, okay? Do you like, this looks like it's the last question. Yeah, last question. Do you like Warren or Klobuchar? I believe both women are viable candidates, as well as Kamala, who I like very much. Yeah. Neither woman are viable. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but I've already walked through how that's not the case. I used to say that Warren wasn't viable because she needed the money. Now her polling has just completely fallen off a cliff in many of these places. And so she's just not viable because people aren't even selecting her. And the same with Amy Klobuchar. So they're not viable. As far as do I like them, I don't care for Elizabeth Warren if you hadn't noticed. My issue with Elizabeth Warren started when she was attacking Obama over his speeches. I cannot fucking stand when people try to count black people's coins. Mind your fucking business. When Obama, he did his fucking 8 years, y'all made Obama ass miserable. You fucking dragged Obama tan suit. You dragged him, terrorist fist bump or dap or whatever the fuck y'all called it. Y'all dragged his wife. He dragged his kids. And he turns around. He does a speech and he gets paid like every other fucking ex-president gets paid, and you got a problem. Girl, fuck you. So it was that point where I was like, I'm not fucking with Warren. But I did forget at times that I was supposed to dislike her based on her attacking Obama because she had some ideas that I liked. But I didn't like how she Columbus Kamala's advocacy for Black maternal health. That really set me off with her because I think she should have attributed or given Kamala some credit for her leadership on that, because Elizabeth Warren did not sign on to the Maternal Care Act, which was the first ever bill to address Black maternal mortality, specifically Black women, ever introduced in the Senate. Okay, and Elizabeth Warren had nothing for it. She hadn't even actually talked about Black maternal mortality until 2019, the beginning of the primary. I think it was a question or something like that, and she brought it up, and then she rolls out her plan. I didn't like that because my whole thing is like, give credit where fucking credit is due. And it just showed me, like, you have literally shown no interest in this issue, and now you want to be a champion of this issue without at least reach back and be like, yeah, Kamala Harris has done great work. If she would have done that, I would have totally different energy for Elizabeth Warren. But she did that. All these fucking black blue checks were stack writing on goddamn Elizabeth Warren. Oh, this is so great. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. If y'all cared about this issue, then how come you don't like Kamala Harris? Because Kamala was the one who actually was a champion on this issue. So that's where part of my beef is with Liz. I have other beefs. But people say I will sound conspiratorial, so I don't have to go into all that. But it doesn't matter because she's about to be out of the race. Klobuchar, Klobuchar is basic as fuck to me. I think she's very mediocre. I think what's her name? Rachel Maddow. I was like, oh, Amy, are you running? And I'm like, well, who the fuck said Amy should run? Just Rachel Maddow, pretty much. She seemed like a fucking asshole to her staff. I remember those stories. Everybody forgot about eating the salad with the comb, and her being a fucking asshole, having a high staff turnover. Everybody forgot about that, Amy Klobuchar. That's fine. But I don't have animus towards her. So that's it. I've answered everybody's questions. I could refresh and see if I got more, but Chad, I'm going to cut it off right now. It's been 48 minutes. If you're still watching, thank you for watching. We'll see what happens at tomorrow's debate. Like I said, the main takeaway I'll have is that a lot of votes are already banked, which makes the debate less impactful in terms of the ultimate outcome. But there are also a lot of people that are still undecided. So, the race is fluid. I'm not going to say that what we're seeing right now in the polls is what we'll see necessarily a week from now, because I don't even know who's going to be in the race. And people can surge and people can falter. But I'm just telling you what we see right now. And I'm very interested to see what Michael Bloomberg brings to the table tomorrow, if he can hold his own. And I'm very interested to see, are y'all going to pick on Pete again? Amy, you going to keep picking on Pete? Or are y'all going to go for Bernie Sanders? That's what I want to say. So, till then, sipping my tea, and I'm spilling my tea.